can you tell me what it's been like for you as an AFDC mom?
Well, it's been very, very hard, Mary. But now that I'm in school and everything, I feel like it's some light at the end of the tunnel. And although welfare is just about to cut out anyway. So I'm just really happy that I've gotten some education so I can get ready to go out there in the job market.
Okay, so as you mentioned, AFDC is about to change. How do you feel about being stereotyped as a Cadillac welfare mom? You ever had a Cadillac?
No.
No.
No. I know people that have, but I haven't had one. I feel good and I feel bad about it, you know, because some people are not ready to get off welfare. Some people are not prepared. Lots of people don't believe it's really going to happen. So as for me, I heard about this like 3 years ago. And when I did hear about it, this is really when I really started to make the decision to go to school. And I'm just about to finish, just in time, because it's about to close. It's, you know, like next year in June, welfare is starting to cut food stamps, you know. And they're cutting every couple of months anyway. So and within a year or two, won't be any welfare anyway.
Okay.
Welcome to Bay Area Psychology. Tonight we turn our attention to welfare reform. The details of the reform process shift daily, so we will use the majority of our time tonight to look at the psychological effects of the welfare system on both the participants and the program providers. However, I'll throw a few stats to provide some perspective. AFDC in the United States affects about 5 million families. That means 12 million people. The total cost to our national budget is $25 billion, or 1% of the federal budget. In Santa Clara County, this means 28,000 families, meaning 90,000 people. 60% are children, mostly under the age of 12, and 25% are working full or part-time. So when we're talking about welfare reform tonight, we are talking about something that affects us locally at a very large level. What is the reality of being in the system? Is there such thing as a multi-generational welfare moms? If so, how do we address it? We are fortunate to be joined by Maricela Martinez from the San Jose City College GAIN program and Gil Villagran from the Department of Social Services. I want to welcome you both and thank you for making time to join us tonight.
Nice to be here. Thank you, Mary.
This is a hot topic.
Yes, it is.
Welfare reform. In fact, I was driving around today and I heard on the radio, National Public Radio, that I guess in 1998 the government's going to be giving like a $2 billion bonus to the top 5 states that can reduce number of unwed parents or unwed moms. So apparently there's going to be a big movement now to try to really put together some programs to prevent teenage pregnancy. So it sounds like every other day there's something new.
Something evolving.
Something evolving, yeah. Now, our opening clip was of a student of mine, Linda, who was about to graduate. And I asked her, of course, about the myth of being a Cadillac mom. Is that something that the two of you are familiar with?
I'm familiar with the myth, the Cadillac driving AFDC mom. Well, maybe for a Cadillac it's 10 or 15 years old, because the car has to be worth less than $3,000. Okay.
So to even qualify for AFDC, she has to have a car worth less than...
Yes.
It's $3,000, right.
Okay, $3,000 or less.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
Yeah, and she sounded like a real typical student that is pursuing a goal in education. She found out about this, you know, was obviously knew that this opportunity was coming up, you know, for her to be able to get an education and, you know, go on to self-sufficiency. So this is a real typical student, the one that self-initiates themselves at a college or at a program. They say, look, I need to do this, I need to be off AFDC, and I need to struggle for it. And it's not easy. It's not an easy path. I mean, you know, students are there. They need to get up really early in the morning, take their children to childcare, and be on time in their classes and have homework. They're really a full-time, it's a full-time job being a student. So it really pleases me to see that the student is actually, you know, graduating, and that's really our are real typical students who has reached their goal and is successful.
Yeah, it sounds like when we had spoken prior to the show, I know you had said that your experience is that more often than not, people are interested in getting out of the system.
Right.
That has been your experience. Now, Gil, you've worked for 25 years for the Department of Social Services, so you have quite a bit of history in watching changes, and I'm sure the issue of reform has come up before in the course of that 25 years.
Yes, and let me tell you that there's nobody that works in the welfare and public assistance field that does not want welfare reform,
Okay.
because it's an inadequate system that keeps people in poverty.
Okay.
The problem is that this welfare reform law is not really reform. We call it welfare deform because it's going to exclude a lot of people that may not be ready to do it on their own for reasons that are beyond their ability.
Okay. So your experience is that when you have encountered people, even over the 25 years, when people come in, they really are looking at this as a short-term solution.
Yes.
Has been your
Yes,
experience.
and in fact, when people come in, they're in crisis. The typical crisis would be there's a divorce in the family, or there's the loss of a job for the wage earner, which could be the father or the mother or the father and mother. So people come in crisis. They're very upset, and they need help. And typically, most families get off aid in less than 2 years. 60% are off aid in less than 2 years. Some are off aid in 3 months. They find another job, they find a cheaper place to live, and they're off aid, and things are going fine. So welfare has been a safety net for a lot of families, and there is no one in our society except the very wealthy that can say, I will never be on welfare.
You know, that's a very good point, which is that I think it makes it easier politically to have distance from this when it becomes, you know, those people but the reality is, I know we've certainly seen this here in the Bay Area, that with jobs being eliminated or downsized, I mean that, what is it, I read somewhere a statistic that most of us are a paycheck
Away from poverty.
Yeah. Yeah. So this isn't something that affects just like a minority of people that will certainly never touch our lives, but in fact could potentially touch us.
Yeah, and you know, when you mention minority, let me just mention that the majority of people on AFDC are white, and the second largest group is African American, and then Latino, and then Asian.
Okay.
So it's not actually true. The black population and the white population are almost even, 39% each.
Okay. That's interesting. What's your theory about how come that doesn't get talked about in the media?
Well, the media focuses on the exception, you know,
The negative all
Yeah.
the time. You know, they want to emphasize on well, you know, all the fuss is, you know, like stereotype the person, you know, one who's in a Cadillac, one who has, you know, all this jewelry. Not really, you know, because most of the students don't have that, don't have nice cars, don't, you know, they're on the bus. You know, they're really struggling for what they have, and it's really tough for a mom with 4 children, you know, to really make it in school, and in spite of those obstacles, they are there, and they're pursuing their goals. So media likes to stereotype people, I think, you know, and really put in our minds that, you know, these people should know better, and they're driving better cars, they're having certain children. I mean, I'm not saying there's not some bad apples, but I mean, you know, there's bad apples everywhere.
That's
you know,
true.
that can't, you know, that doesn't mean everybody is the way, you know, it's like that person that is not following, you know, or pursuing their goals.
Oh, sure, sure. Well, and the whole idea of, I don't know if you're familiar with the numbers off the head, but, you know, the whole idea that women have more children to stay in the system. I mean, how much extra money a month does a woman get for having another child?
well, a second child would bring her to about maybe $40 to $60 extra. So that's not really an incentive to have a child, with all the staying up late and diaper changes and all of that.
Okay.
But welfare reform currently will bring a cap so that if a woman has a second child, she will not get additional money. This has yet to be determined. It's going to be something that every state will decide.
Yeah.
And here's one of my concerns, Mary, that we're going from a welfare system that's federal for all 50 states to 50 welfare systems. Each state will do it differently, have different amounts of money. And so the problem is that if a state tries to be enlightened and say, well, we're going to provide 2 years of training for parents, we're going to provide an income level that will support a family, then the other states that don't have that, the people will leave one state to go to another state.
Oh, that's a good. Well, and that was one of the arguments anyway about the federal numbers here in California, which is, well, gee, our state seems to be attractive for people from other states to come and be able to receive benefits. Let's take a look. I know you had brought us some of the specifics about the changes, and then we can use those sort of to reflect on. Let's take a look. It looks like the first few there, we have a 2-year time limit, 5-year time limit. Non-citizen legal immigrants are not eligible unless they've worked here, I guess, 10 years. Drug-convicted felons are lifetime ineligible, and teen parents must live with a caretaking adult. Let's start with those, and I have them here in front of me, okay? 2-year time limit, 5-year time limit. How is that a change?
Okay, well, if I can start, typically a family would be eligible, and as long as they remained eligible, they would continue to get AFDC.
Okay.
I said earlier, most families would get off in 2 years because the mother found a job, got training, got married, and
Okay.
therefore she didn't need the AFDC because she had the income of the person she married, or the man got married. But now there's going to be a 2-year limit, so 24 months go by and you're off aid, whether you found a job or not, whether you got into a training program or not, whether you were able to get child care or subsidized child care or not. 2 years and you're out. Well, the problem is, what about those children? Remember, most of them are under 12 years old, so they're not even supposed to be working. You punish the parent, you punish the child.
Okay. Yeah, that is one of the difficulties, isn't it? That you really can't easily separate out what affects the adult versus the children.
Right.
We're going to need to take a quick break for 30 seconds.
okay.
When we will come back,
Sure.
stay with us. When we return, we'll learn more about this system.
So what are your plans now that you're about to leave the welfare